Hey everybody, welcome back to the Dungeon Dive. Daniel here. I hope you're doing well, and if you're not, I hope you are soon. Okay, today on the Dungeon Dive, we have a game book double feature. We'll be taking a look at a somewhat new release called Endless Destinies, the Clockwork City. And this is by Corina Keefe with game design by Joe Harris and illustrated by Paula Zorite. And we'll also be taking a look at the Citadel of Bureaucracy by J.D. Mitchell. J.D. Mitchell sent me a copy of this book quite a while ago, and it kind of got lost in the shuffle. So, J.D., I apologize for it taking so long to get a video up. But I'm really happy to kind of pair these two together. Now, I bought Clockwork City on Amazon, and both of these you can actually buy on Amazon right now. Now, Clockwork City comes in a box, and it comes with a deck of cards that you use for combat and for skill checks. And so Endless Destinies is kind of trying to do something a little bit new, and I think it succeeds. Whereas the Citadel of Bureaucracy is kind of a parody of the old fighting fantasy books. And as you can tell, this is a fighting reality book. And it's really cool. So I think they both excel in what they were trying to do. Clockwork City trying to do something new and unique, a little bit different. And Citadel of Bureaucracy excels in being a parody of the adventure book. And it also excels at just having some really good writing with some really funny moments. I think comedy in games can be kind of hit or miss just because of the subjective nature of comedy, but I laughed quite a bit during my playthroughs of Citadel of Bureaucracy. Let's take a look at Citadel first here. So for those of you familiar with the fighting fantasy books, you will be right at home with Citadel of Bureaucracy. Even the character sheet looks very similar. You will have a place to keep your skill, your stamina, and your luck. You will often be told to test those, and you roll 2d6 and you want to roll lower. Every time you test your luck, you will roll 2d6 trying to meet or get lower, and then you will also lose a point of luck every time you test your luck. When you get involved in combat, you will keep track of the enemy's skill and stamina, just like you would in a normal. However, this changes up things by being a parody of a fighting fantasy book and by injecting this kind of a game book with a lot of humor and satire. So let's take a little read here at the back. Part story, part game. This is a book in which you call the shots. The Citadel of Bureaucracy holds many perils for civil servants, unprepared for its labyrinthine cubicle walls. Yet enter you must. Working against the clock, you must fight unreliable transit, dodgy IT, the dreaded Canada Goose, and a rising sense of nihilism in order to get paid and clear your desk for a much-needed vacation. You decide which paths to take, which dangers to risk, and which colleagues to confront. May the Janus-faced god of finance and HR be with you, for you'll find little succor in the Citadel's unhallowed halls. So in this book, you are a civil servant. You are a government employee having to deal with all kinds of bureaucracy, having to face off against middle management or IT. You might come across, there's your cubicle there. There are some really great drawings in here. I love it a lot. There's the Canada geese there. A backhoe has unclogged created a disturbance to where you can't get to your job there. Where's this one picture? Oh, there's must be nice to have time for coffee, Barb whines. I think she's like the head of HR or something. Here we have the trio of hunched, crabby-looking civil servants. So everything in this book is kind of making a satire of government jobs, of bureaucracy. Even the character sheet has your name being redacted, and this kind of looks like an HR form. Consult your HR advisor before submitting this form. Your character sheet here is called the Record of Adventure Form 0001C. So you will keep track of that. And you have your standard rules that you would have in a fighting fantasy. I don't think, as far as the game goes, this game doesn't do too much different. I think one thing it does do is it does have you keep track of time. And certain actions will take a certain amount of time. And if you ever run out of time, you have to turn to section 92. And so that is one of the ways that you can end your job or end your adventure, keeping track of time. At the end, you will tally up some different scores to find your merit. You will have kind of a review at the end. And I also really like this section here, how to cheat fairly. You can play in story mode, a finger in time. We all know that by keeping your finger in here in case you want to rewind time, or you can get hints on play, make notes and a flowchart as you progress. Unlike a Silver Service critical path, this chart will be useful and enable you to rapidly progress in subsequent playthroughs. So just keeping track of a paragraph map that you can refer to as you continue to play one adventure after another. So a little briefing note here in the background. You are a policy analyst, a small but ubiquitous cog in the cyclopean organization that is the Civil Service. Governments come and go, but civil service endures. You have endured for 6 long years. You work in the Policy Implementation Directorate, PID, of the Innovation Branch, the IB, and the mandate of which is to streamline and modernize all of government. No easy feat. The IB is part of the Innovation of Intergovernmental Affairs Department, the IAIGAD. No one pronounces IAIGAD the same way. You suspect a proper pronunciation might call forth an otherworldly entity from a hell plane of shifting policy tides and endless mandatory forms. It's your job to fight these very things. So let's read a little bit and have a little bit of an adventure. It's July 5th, 2019, and you're pressed against the sliding doors of a city transpo train. Your forehead bumps the window at every lurch and jostle. Heavy rain droplets batter and stream across the glass. It's warm outside and the rain has only made it stickier, enhancing the compartment's warm bologna smell. You gaze at the rusted tracks streaking by. An inch of aluminum, plastic, and dodgy, municipally outsourced pneumatics stand between you and a gruesome death. There are no handholds, but also no need since your compartment is jammed with wet passengers staring anywhere but at one another. It's a holiday week, meaning the crowd should be thinner, but City Transpo has cut service to maximize bottlenecks and passenger discomfort. Oh my God, that is so true, especially post-COVID here in the Seattle area. They cut a lot of public transportation and haven't brought it back. The C train rounds a bend, its wheels shrieking like low-grade steel souls being dragged down the tracks to hell. The force of the turn presses your nose into the window. The train straightens aggressively, sending you into the backpack of the person behind you and the shoulder of the person to your right. None of you say a thing. The mutual support is understood. Assuming a slightly steadier posture, you look at the impression your face left on the glass and adjust your damp bag. The corner of the laptop inside has worked its way into your hip for a third time. You wipe the fog from the window of your office as your office hooves into view. The Darby Complex. Its main tower rises into the dark, troubled sky, its lower floor shielded behind the smoked glass breezeway connecting the buildings around it. Known as the Citadel to its inmates, the Darby Complex is a drab, concrete, brutalist campus more akin to a medieval fortification than a modern place of work. Built in 1967, there is the King County main government building in downtown Seattle. Looks exactly like that. It looks like a prison. For the longest time, I thought it was the county jail, but no, that's where everybody works in Seattle. That is part of the civil service there. The Citadel is anything but modern, packed with asbestos, bad wiring, old pipes, and with air quality equivalent to a dank, rat-infested dungeon. The only reason the complex hasn't been condemned is because, sure, it would leave thousands of civil servants without a place of work, but more importantly, no government could survive the political fallout of a costly retrofit. The train bucks and screeches as it approaches Darby Station. Test your luck. All right, so my luck is 11. At the beginning of the game, you roll a couple dice and add a couple bonuses to determine your luck. I have a skill of 11, a stamina of 17, a luck of 11. I have a pill. I have a antidepressant pill, antidepressant. And when I take it, I can gain 3 luck back. So test my luck. I need to get 11 or under and a 9. Okay. So because we had to test our luck, eventually our luck will run out. So our luck drops to 10 there. And now we can continue. So test your luck. If you're lucky, turn to 201. The C train pulls into Derby Station, a retro modern building of glass, concrete, and harsh fluorescence. Its riveted steel roof slopes into the sky with the futurism of a V-1 rocket's launch ramp. The train grinds to a halt and its doors open, spilling passengers onto the platform. It reeks of urine. That sounds about right. Why does this station always smell like a latrine? Because someone used it as a toilet. That's right. Your mind turns from public micturition, I guess public urination, I've never heard that word before, to the tasks ahead. It being a holiday Friday means fewer bodies to do the usual amount of work. Only sad sacks, workaholics, and bureaucratic casualties will be in today. You hope it's quiet so you can clear your desk and maybe, just maybe, cut out a bit early. You've just got to work out your pay issue, wrap up a couple long overdue projects, and turn on your out-of-office replies. It should be an easy day. Yes, right. Whenever you think it's going to be an easy day at the day job, it's not. You go up the corporate steps 2 at a time. An obelisk of an informational display indicates that your train is 15 minutes behind schedule. How a couple railed cars on a single line can run behind schedule is beyond you. At least you weren't in another derailment. Lose 1 time. Okay, so our time ticks down from 24. We start at 24 and it ticks down 1 to 23. How do you get to the office? We can take a side lot, your usual shortcut, or we can take the main exit the long way around. I am not going to take the shortcut today. I am going to take the main exit the long way around. I'm going to 375 here. Okay, 375. You hustle through the main exit's turnstiles and out into the rain, rummaging in your bag for your folding umbrella. Test your luck again. Okay, so now my luck is 10 and 11. Ooh, I am unlucky. If you are unlucky, turn to 329. Okay, 329. Let's see what happens here. Where is it? No, you left your folding umbrella in the office after last week's storm. Strike it off your form 0001C. Okay, so I no longer have my folding umbrella. That is unfortunate. Damn it, you're going to get soaked. It's going to be a very uncomfortable morning. Deduct 2 stamina. Okay, so my stamina is at 17, so that drops to 15. And now I need to turn to passage 9. Passage 9. You splash through the puddle that always accumulates in front of the ticket machines outside. Temporary mesh fencing keeps you from the side lot, driving you towards several large decorative boulders on the new yet dangerously uneven concrete pads. The boulders are channeling everyone into 2 sluggish lines. Weaving through the crowd, you try to keep from getting stuck. Test your skill. So my skill is 11, so I need to get 11 or lower. And a 6, yes. If you're successful, turn to 248. You dart through the crowd and hop up and along the edge of a planter like a government-appointed ninja. Bypassing the logjam, you hurry to freedom. Turn to 191. Okay, we'll read one more passage here and see what happens at 191. You clear the station and head deeper into the Citadel. The main walk is a long, straight shot into the heart of the complex. At the center of it resides the tower, a brooding 30-story sentinel of bureaucratic glory. Every senior manager worth their salt jockeys for an office inside. A massive flag on top whips wetly in the wind, a constant flapping reminder of the people you serve. The area between you and the complex is an expanse of laneways, lawns, and parking lots. The best spots are already packed by people who pay top dollar to avoid city transpose, dangerously lackluster service. Someone calls to you. It's your old friend Sammy, a senior analyst at IGAB, your partner branch. They lock their BMW with a pert honk honk and walk together, catching up on office politics along the way. Tough break about your report, Sammy says. You frown, perplexed. Your boss didn't tell you? Someone at CPD, Central Policy Directorate, shared your report with your associate deputy, the AD. What? Your draft report is bold, reaching. It's meant to spark discussion, not go up to senior management. The AD is going to have questions, hard, endless questions. You grab Sammy by the lapels. It's not ready. I sent it to CPD for comment, not AD review. Hey, don't shoot the messenger. Look, this is your boss's problem. Just fob it off on him. You mumble something non-committal. How the hell did your report end up in the AD's office, the ADO? You don't have time for this. You have a desk to clear and a pay problem to resolve so you can pay your bills. Let's do lunch today, okay? I'm buying, Sammy says. You decide Sammy's right. This is above your pay grade. It's the sort of mix-up for which senior policy analysts were made. You'll dump the problem on your boss's lap and maybe even meet Sammy for lunch. Yeah, everything will be okay. Lose one time and note down that Sammy invited you to lunch and then turn to 13. So we would do that, mark down lunch or mark down one more time and have a note. So that's kind of a keyword, Sammy and lunch. And that's how it goes. And you have a really bad day at the office, but it's really funny. I think J.D. Mitchell's writing is really good, actually. I was surprised at how good it is and how much I laughed. The illustrations by Matt Herring have that old school quality, but they have just that it's hilarious seeing that old school quality of attached to this kind of workaday setting and this kind of this office setting, and it's very, very cool. I had a lot of fun playing it. I found 2 endings so far, and I think it's really cool. If you're looking for a nice satire or kind of a parody of the fighting fantasy books, I can highly recommend the Citadel of Bureaucracy. Okay, next up, we'll take a look at Endless Destinies, the Clockwork City, a game book with 52 playing cards. So I heard that this is going to be the first book in a series, and I'm hoping it is successful because it's pretty cool. So this says, explore a strange land, battle fearsome monsters, and uncover ancient mysteries in this interactive game book powered by a deck of 52 cards. Choose your path, create a hero, master card-based combat, and discover a living world. So this is pretty cool. It's kind of a combination of something you might have seen in Destiny Quest, where you have a map and each chapter has its own map, and the areas on the map will correspond to the different passages in the book. And so you will be working through 4 different chapters in the Clockwork City. Here's your character sheet. The character sheets and the maps are available on their webpage. If you scan that, or if you just go to that website there, you can find all of the things you need to print to play the game. But these are also included in the book. But I just wanted to print them out because I think they're pretty cool looking maps. And so there are 4 different chapters. There are 4 different maps to explore. And the various places on the map will have your passages that you turn to. Some of them won't. Some of them you will have to discover before you can actually visit or revisit them. So we have the Harrowvale is where you start your adventure, and then you move into Tor, and then you move into the Rainwoods, and then finally the Clockwork City, which is this mechanical city that is floating in the sky above this landmass here. So a Clockwork City does come with some cards, and the cards are used for combat and for passing challenges, for skill checks. And it's pretty interesting the way it works. You have a deck of hero action cards, and these are your standard cards. The black border symbolizes your standard cards. And then you also have a handful, about 10 or so of these gold bordered cards. And these are advanced cards. At certain times, you will be told to level up your character, and when you level up, you can choose one of these advanced cards to add to your deck. So kind of depending on what kind of character you want to build, each one of these cards has 2 powers. So for instance, this card here is the Battering Ram. You gain a shield and then deal your shield's value worth of melee damage. On the other side, you have Smash. Lose 2 health and deal 4 melee damage. So there are a whole bunch of different ways to attack and different ways to power up your character with these cards. The cards are also used for skill checks because each one of the cards will have a number of different icons. There are a few different, you have strength, skill, and spirit. And those are symbolized by those icons there. And each one of these cards will have two icons on it. So for instance, this card counts as a strength. And what is that? Strength and skill, I believe. I just looked at it and forgot. Strength and skill. Yeah. And so when you come across a challenge, you will shuffle your deck of hero cards. You will draw two and you will tally up all of the icons. So I have 2 skill and 2 spirit. So hopefully the challenge required either skill or spirit. I would succeed. If it required strength, then this would have been a failure. And so you have a whole bunch of different basic cards. Now, the enemies also have a deck of cards, and they have different types of attacks and powers like pounce and cleave and bullseye and crush and stab and bolt and doom. And each of the enemies, when you face off against an enemy, will tell you to build their deck by using the cards mentioned. So to fight the general, you will build a deck with blast, snipe, crush, lunge, and slash. And I believe if I'm remembering correctly, you also always put this Doom card in there because this Doom card will allow the enemy to reshuffle their deck, and it will also add peril. And as peril ticks up during a fight, the enemy becomes stronger. So you want to take care of the enemy before the peril ticks up. The decks of cards also come with 3 different status cards for the enemy, so you can keep track of their status, such as wounded or weakened or burning or immobilized. And then you can also keep track of their health using these 2 cards. And your hero also comes with some status cards, so you can keep track of your status, such as burning, stunned, weakened, or immobilized. You can also keep track of your focus because certain cards will allow you to gain focus, and then you can spend that focus to do stronger attacks. And then you will also have a couple cards to keep track of your hero's health. And right now my health is 8. So I could take this card here and my health is 8. So whichever is at top, that is your health. And then you also have this combat card. And this combat card will tell you if you are in melee ranged or you are in ranged combat. And depending on if you are in melee combat, then you can only do melee damage. If you are in ranged combat, you can only do ranged damage. Certain powers will allow you to change that. So you can like rush forward and change range to combat, or you can fall back and change melee to range. So it's kind of cool. And then below this, you will keep track of your hero's health using the cards here, such as underneath here. You will keep track of your focus like that. And then you can keep track of your status as you gain them like that. And on the top here, you can keep track of your enemy's statuses like that. So the combat is a little more involved here than it is in a typical kind of game book where you're just rolling a couple d6. Here you will take your deck of cards, and then any of your more powerful cards, your advanced cards, would be shuffled in this deck. And you will draw 3, and then you can choose which power to activate on each one of these cards. So if you were in range, so this does 3 range damage if you were at range, or 1 melee damage if you're in melee. Or here you can dash to flip the distance tracker. So let's say I was in melee here. We get some shields or some focus. Spend 1 focus for 3 melee damage. So I think I would like to do this. Let's say I could dash to flip the tracker. And let's say I was in ranged. I could dash to flip the tracker. I could channel for 1 focus. And I could smite to spend a focus to deal 3 melee damage. So then you do all 3 of these. I would dash to go into melee. I would generate 1 focus. And then I would spend 1 focus to do 3 damage to my enemy. And then that's how that works. Anytime you are out of cards, you just reshuffle your discard deck back into your hero's cards. So if you are looking for a game book that has a little bit more of an involved combat system, then a Clockwork City might be for you. And I think the combat system is pretty interesting. It is sometimes a little tiresome in all of these game books to just roll 2d6 and compare the numbers. This is simpler, this is quicker, but this gives you a little bit more of a choice to make, and it's just more involved. But let's take a look here at so chapter 1. Now, this game is really all about exploration and finding cool things and exploring the land, exploring this kind of open world environment where you can kind of go anywhere. So we'll just read a few passages here, and I won't read the full intro. Actually, it's not too long here. Let's give it a shot. Okay, entry 1. So this is where you start in chapter 1. A shout fills the air. Land! After weeks at sea, surrounded by glittering white ice floes and cold blue waves, the continent seems like a miracle. It's a low green land with hazy shadows of mountains in the distance. You lean forward, eagerly clinging to the wooden rail of the ice-cutting ship, trying to make out the first buildings of the port town in Harrowvale. Look up, says a quiet voice beside you. It's your friend on board. It's your friend on board, the first mate. She grew up in the Rainwoods, so it's a familiar sight to her, but she knows you've never visited the continent before. Dragging your eyes reluctantly away from the land, you glance upward and there it is, the Clockwork City, a vast metal mechanism hovering above the continent, crackling with magical energy, the airborne home of thousands of people. Even at this distance, you can just about hear the faint ticking sound, which reassures every citizen of the continent that the city is at work. Its ancient mechanisms regulate the ebb and flow of magical power. It keeps the people of the continent safe, and that makes them complacent, vulnerable. You've never seen anything like the city. You're a child of the wildlands, the islands at the edge of the world, where it's always cold and magic is always free. Long ago, your people chose to take the chances in the wild rather than stay on the continent. It's a hard life, but it means you still understand the old ways, how to bend raw magic to your purpose, how to combine physical force and magical energy, how to defend yourself against monsters, creatures born of magic or twisted by it, how to depend on your own power instead of the clockwork machines that channel magic on the continent. And that's why the continent still needs you. A few weeks ago, the seer of your people accosted you on the way back from a hunting trip, and he had a warning to share. Bad times were coming for the continent and the city. Monsters were growing bolder, protective charms seemed weaker than usual. There were whispers that the clockwork had started to fail. The seer picked you out as the most skilled hex knight in the wildlands, the warrior best able to cross the continent, reach the city, and restore balance. It seems it's time for a wildlander to save the world again. And so here you get to pick a couple of items to take with you on your journey. And I chose an iron dagger, which allows me to deal 1 melee damage, and a buckler, which gives me 2 shields. And you also get 2 coins. And the shields will prevent damage coming into you. And then we would go on to entry 2, and we would read entry 2, and then we're free to travel this map. And so we can take a look at the map and decide where we want to go. We can go to the Harrowvale Lighthouse, we can go to the port, we can go to the Crab and Clock Tavern, we can go to the Market Quarter, the Temple, the Drowned Caves, or the Hermit Hut. And so let's go. It's always a good idea, I think, to check out a tavern when you are first entering into a new city so you can get kind of hear some rumors, maybe talk to some locals. So let's go to passage 73. Now, the rest of the passages in A Clockwork City are pretty short, and I do like that. I prefer when my game books are a little snappier. And so I think this is a kind of a perfect amount of reading for a game book. But let's turn to section 73 here to go to the tavern. As you walk along the main street of Harrowvale town, you spot a tavern sign swinging from one of the buildings. The place looks small and shabby, but there's a delicious smell of fish stew wafting out of the door. You can't resist. Turn to entry 3 and relabel the Crab and Clock Tavern as entry 21, and then proceed to 21. Okay, so now when we go back to the tavern, we don't read that intro again. We go straight to the tavern, which is going to be 21. We can cross out 73 here and write 21. Now we can proceed to the tavern by going to entry 21. Let's see what is in store for us at the tavern here. Okay, the tap room of the Crab and Clock is the only warm place you've found in Harrowvale. The cold stone walls have been covered with thickly woven carpets, and there's a roaring fire. The air is thick with smoke, fish stew, and the tang of local salt apple cider. A few locals are huddled around the hearth or slumped along the bar. A couple of them look up when you walk in. One of the men by the hearth says something to the others, and there's a burst of stifled laughter. But they fall silent at a single glance from the weather beaten old woman sitting alone in a corner. Perhaps it's the crossbow strapped to her back. The landlord looks you up and down and then takes a pull on his kelp burning pipe. We don't get wildlanders in here very often. What can we do for you? Okay, so here's what we can do. We can spend the night here to pay 3 coins. I only have 2 coins, so I don't think we'll be resting there. We can talk to the landlord. We can sit by the fire. We can buy a drink for the old woman, pay 1 coin and go to 11. Or we don't have time to waste, return to entry 3, which entry 3 is the map, so we can find a new place to go. I think this old woman is intriguing to me, so I'm going to pay a coin, buy her a drink. So I'll go down to 1 coin. Okay, so we go to entry 11 here, and the grizzled old woman's dour face doesn't invite conversation, but there's something intriguing about her all the same. She wears a pewter ring engraved with a lighthouse on her left hand. You're ready to ask about it when she looks up. Who are you, and why should I care? Okay, so now we need to look at our fame. I have 0 fame because I haven't earned any fame on this adventure yet. So if you have less than 6 fame, go to 51. If you have at least 6 fame, go to 15. Okay, so I need to turn to 51 because I have 0 fame. So I probably need to return to her when I get some more fame. You're expecting a more positive welcome than this. You explain that you've just arrived from the Wildlands and have come to help the people of Harrowvale. She laughs mockingly. You'd be better off back on that boat, she says. Talk to me again when you've seen a few battles. Okay, so we need to go and talk to her. Down here, we have an example of a combat encounter with the Rusalka. So this enemy here has 5 health, 3 shields. What is star? I forget what star means on the enemies. Here we have, okay, so the star is how much fame you get. So as you fight, you will earn fame and you will also earn coins. So if we defeat this Rusalka, we will earn 1 fame and 3 coins. We would build their deck with Blast, Bolt, Doom, Snipe, Stab, and then the Doom card is mentioned there. And the position, this begins at ranged combat, so we would put that in ranged combat. Whenever we draw the Doom card, we would do this power, and then we also need to keep track of the peril for if we were fighting that enemy. I think this is really fun. I love this kind of system in a game book where you get to explore a map. Here we have a whole bunch of 4 different maps that we get to explore. There seems to be some good replayability here, especially in how you can build your character by choosing the advanced action cards to add to your deck. Overall, I think this is a really nice package. It isn't very expensive. I think everything feels really nice. It's well made. The book is a good size. I like this kind of small, almost a pocketbook size. Here, the book has a lot of art. It's not my favorite style of art, but I appreciate that it does have a lot of it. And it's very bright and colorful. I think it's well written, and the adventure seems really cool. I've enjoyed my time spending exploring this land. I like that it has a box. It's kind of cool just to have this like game book in a box. The whole package is really well made. All of the cards fit back into this well here. And such like this, put those on that nice little ribbon so they're easy to pull out. You can put your book back on top there, and there you go. I guess these will need to be stored separately. Oops, forgot a couple of cards there. But overall, I am really happy with this. I just stumbled upon this on Amazon. Sometimes I'll look for things like adventure games. I'll just do a really generic search or something on Amazon so I can see if anything like this from completely under the radar comes. And somebody posted about this on the Dungeon Dive Facebook group about a week or 2 weeks ago, and people have been pretty jazzed about it, and I am too. I'm really looking forward to seeing more in this series. I hope this does well so we can continue to get these neat little kind of advanced game books. And then also, if you're looking for a really well-written and funny parody and satire of the game book of the fighting fantasy, a Fighting Reality book, then also check out J.D. Mitchell's The Citadel of Bureaucracy. So, all right, guys, well, I hope you enjoyed taking a look at these two game books, and we will talk to you later. Bye-bye.